Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, the show that goes way beyond and behind the trillion-dollar business of sports, not X's and O's, but deal-making news, marketing, everything, politics, administration, all the stuff that really drives the business. And we've had a few really interesting weeks, mega weeks. The Daytona 500, obviously a big deal. Super Bowl, NBA All-Star, NHL All-Star, all geared to the special events that drive the business way beyond just the individual sports themselves. And boy, the individual sports are big as well. Special, looking to the future, passing the torch. That's kind of our show today. Rodney Barreto, the head of the Miami 2020 host committee. It's his third time doing this, formerly taking the handoff from Atlanta a while ago. Great event in Atlanta. Will be a great event in South Florida, all the activation that's going to happen. We'll talk about him in a minute. But we'll also talk about NBA and otherwise. And by the way, if you want the full list of the 15 things to watch, 5 tech, 5 power of sports, don't go any further than NBCWashington.com, at Rick Horrow, rickhorrow.com. A host of places. Get it where you can if you want to identify all of the top things that are going on every week. You don't have to look any further than exactly here and exactly that. You can also subscribe to us on our Apple Podcast, Google Play, Audio Boom, Stitcher, iTunes. Look for everything. But before we start with any of that, let's say goodbye and hello to football for a little while. The Alliance of American Football, the rating show, it's an early hit. They debuted last week, and surprisingly, according to Yahoo Sports, the new league was able to pull off better television overnights than the Rockets and Thunder NBA matchup and generally received positive reviews during opening week. 2.1 overnight rating beat out the NBA numbers. Certainly more curiosity about the AAF than a regular season NBA game. The past other startup football leagues such as USFL and XFL performed well at the beginning before the excitement quickly fizzled. The challenge, obviously, after week 2, keep the good times rolling, and when the games are on CBS Sports Network and not CBS Primetime, how do you generate excitement? They'll have to outperform other new football leagues, in addition to well-established sports institutions such as the NBA, MLB during the spring and summer months. They're up for the task. And by the way, what about the XFL next year? We'll cover that with Oliver Luck next week, the commissioner of the XFL. This week, we have some NFL stuff as well. Atlanta, if you remember, we had Brett Daniels on, the head of the host committee last week, to talk about the economic benefit in Georgia. A complete success. Some say the game was a dud. Everybody says the economics were not. The bottom line, too, is the torch passing last week to South Florida, 2020, and the Super Bowl in Steve Ross's brand new renovated $450 million Hard Rock Stadium. It's going to have a tennis tournament there in just a couple of weeks. And the Super Bowl, granddaddy of them all, in a town that's had multi-double digits. We'll have another one. Rodney Barreto, 3-time host committee chairman, grew up in the political and business ranks in Miami and South Florida. Have the good fortune to call him a friend. But here's his perspective on the NFL, South Florida, and mega events. Rodney Barreto. Sports Professor Rick Horrow inside the boardroom, Beyond the Scoreboard. Atlanta, where the coconuts get chopped up, and it's not really because everybody's excited about the Atlanta Super Bowl. I will tell you that off of Media Row, the people who are the most exciting people to see are Super Bowl 54, 2020, Miami. Their brilliant PR guys have come up with a device to chop up coconuts, to open them up, and to give them out, and there's a line. Nobody cares about Atlanta, but certainly people care about Miami. Not true. The guy who is the chairman of the Miami host committee and has been involved in Super Bowl 3 now, third one here in South Florida, Rodney Barreto. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about International Business Show. People understand that Miami is a significant tourist destination, but this is not just Miami. This is South Florida. It's Palm Beach, Broward, Dade, and everywhere else. So talk a little bit about your geographical mandate.
Well, it's obviously a regional effort, and we work closely with our neighbors to the north, Broward and Palm Beach County. We're going to utilize all 3 international airports, and we need it. And we have hotel room blocks in all 3 counties.
So you fly out of when you're in Atlanta, you fly to Hartsfield and nowhere else.
That's Hartsfield and Hartsfield. Right.
Yeah.
So Miami Miami, we have the 3 airports. We have room blocks in all 3 counties. Listen, Miami is not the hottest city in America. Yeah. It's the hottest city in the world. Yeah. And everybody's going to come. I mean, everybody. The buzz is, man, we can't wait to get to Miami. You can leave your jacket at home. Right. You don't need it.
Rodney Barreto certainly is passionate about what he does, and he should be, because you've been involved for over 30 years on this. How'd you start? Dick Anderson, who was a former Dolphin All-Pro safety, got you involved in the kind of business of Super Bowl promotion early on. Tell that story.
Absolutely. Dick came to me, and Dick is obviously a neighbor in Coral Gables, and he asked me to get involved with him. And at that time, I was vice president of government affairs. I handled all the politics for him, and made sure that we got the in-kind service from the local government and got state government involved, and it worked out really well. And ever since, I've been there ever since. Now on my 30th year. That was 1988, and here it is, 2019, 31 years. So, yeah.
I mean this as a compliment, sincerely. Don't hit me. But I think in all the Super Bowl people that I've met, you're probably the oldest, most experienced, longevity-wise guy who's been in this position of any Super Bowl committee. Usually, it's one and done.
That's correct.
Talk about the sustaining nature.
Well, you're right. It's usually one and done, and this will be my 3rd one as chairman. Yeah. And I chased a lot of them in between. And thanks to Steve Ross, as you know, we talked about it before. I mean, for him, he tried to go the public route. It didn't work out. So you know what? He ponied up to the table, wrote a check for $550 million, and we have a brand new stadium. And now we're back into rotation.
And it is. Some people want to make it more complicated. It effectively is that simple. Yeah. And when you realize the life of building facilities in the NFL and other leagues with mega events, the idea of promising giving Super Bowls and the economic impact it generates, it would more than pay for the public money that's allocated. South Florida sometimes gets it, sometimes doesn't. Steve took it upon himself, and here we are.
Here we are. Not only that, and thanks to Steve, the Miami Open tennis tournament, which left Key Biscayne, is at Hard Rock Stadium.
Dirty little secret, by the way. We don't know that yet, but you watch the finals of that tennis tournament, you're liking Wimbledon.
Yeah. So and then hey, listen, you got to give them credit. And by the way, I've already signed the papers. It's an invitation only now. It's not bid. And the NFL's changed their way to do business. Right. I've signed the papers for 25, 26, or 27.
So are you exclusively? We got to go through you? Is that
no. But we're hoping the NFL makes a decision, and we're back in the rotation.
Right. And by the way, the whole idea of the politics of Super Bowl awarding has been a significant issue for the league. Part of what they need to do, they've got to balance their priorities. They got to make sure that they spread it around. They got to make sure they keep their TV partners happy. They got to make sure they got to provide leverage to build facilities.
Absolutely.
The Minnesotas, the Detroits, probably had enough of cold weather seasons for a while. Yep. Now LA, which is not as hard a problem, nor Vegas, nor Phoenix. Right. So think about the competition you have. It's not as easy today as it used to be, is it?
No, it's not. Listen, we're blessed. We're on our 11th record-breaking Super Bowl. Yeah. And we've known what Super Bowls are. They're good for your city. They're good for business. It starts right at your airport. You're bringing people in your community. Now it's Uber and Lyft. It's also rental cars, but it's Uber and Lyft. Yeah. It's a huge economic generator. And so a lot of cities are figuring out, wow, we should have a Super Bowl in our community. It's good. It's good for business.
Let's talk about the economic impact for a while, because people's eyes, my perspective, is they're glazed over. They see a 500 million, 600 million number. They don't know what it means. But even the cynics can understand Super Bowl 1 week, 2 weeks, cruise ships, restaurants on the way to other communities. So talk about that, sir.
Well, it's what I was saying a few minutes ago. Corporate America at its best. They're going to come to your community. They're going to spend. They're going to have an open checkbook. They're entertaining their number one client, at this game. And by the way, the game is a 3.5-hour game. What's really important is all the activities around the game and all the people coming into town. In our case, we're going to have 65,000 people will go to the actual game, but there's going to be maybe a couple 100,000 people in your community for the parties, for the entertainment, entertaining clients, moving people around. I mean,
they don't know what to do other than spend a lot of money.
Exactly. Right? And listen, we're the envy of America with the restaurants we have between the 3 counties, the hotels that we have. So it's just going to be fabulous.
A little self-serving for your perspective, but people don't know it. Let's talk about the dimension and the volume volume of the cats you have to herd. In communities where there is a stadium in a downtown, there's one political jurisdiction you have to serve. You have at least 3 counties. How many cities?
Oh my God, there's,
Pick it up.
there's 35 cities just in Miami-Dade County alone.
And then times probably 2.5.
Yeah.
So you got almost 100 cities.
Yeah.
And they want a return on their respective investments.
That's right.
The hotels, the
They
restaurants.
do.
How do you balance it?
Well, it's real simple. It's simple math. And I boil it down to this. A 30-second spot in Super Bowl is $5 million. Do you know how many 30-second spots we're going to get out of this?
Yeah.
When you have 5,000 press from all over the world, when this game is going to be broadcast to 170 countries.
Right.
So when you boil it down to the simplistic math of a 30-second spot, the local elected officials get it. They see the return immediately.
Yeah. But you've got to do a major everywhere selling job, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. The politics on Miami Beach, where you were born,
right.
And the city side, the county, Broward County, Palm Beach County. It's just and everybody wants a piece of the pie.
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is radio, so let me describe it. Rodney Barreto, when I first met him, he was strapping good looking.
Yeah.
Look at him now. In all seriousness, another context too, it's an important issue. The NFL has asked more and more from the respective host committees.
Yeah.
Some would call it extortion. Most would call it legitimate business bidding of one city versus another.
Yeah.
Respond to that kind of process and the pay-to-play now, what it takes, which is a lot more than...
it's kind of, when I look back 20 years ago, and when Jim Stieg ran Super Bowls, we would do the Super Bowl on a handshake. We would get the contract after the Super Bowl came and left the community.
Right.
And Jim was a man of his word, and it was great. But, today's the way the economics lay out, yes, it's the Super Bowl, the NFL is very demanding, and they almost kind of block you out of a lot of the fundraising because it's their sponsors first.
Right.
And then so we got to go find people who traditionally are not in that space to help underwrite bringing the Super Bowl to town.
Block you out of the fundraising, but not trying to stir the pot, demanding a pretty significant check.
Yeah, well, listen, it's still the number one sporting event in the world, and you know what? And when you're the number one sporting event in the world, you can demand a lot.
Yeah.
And listen, we also, we held our own. They wanted a bunch of tax reliefs on a bunch of different things that we did not agree with them and did not give them.
Right.
So it's a give and take.
Yeah.
And I think it's just going to be really incredible because the last time Super Bowl was in Miami was 10 years ago.
Right.
And we have a different community there. If you stop and think about it, there was no Bright Line train coming to downtown Miami. The Tri-Rail didn't have a depot in downtown Miami. We didn't have a tunnel. We didn't have a Perez Art Museum. We didn't have a museum of science. We didn't have the brand new condos in downtown and the new hotels. And you can make the same argument in Broward and in Palm Beach County. All these communities have just blown up.
The other piece of Super Bowl rotation from a national perspective, I think, is that, I don't know if this is news, but it's cold in Minnesota. I don't know if this is news, but it's pretty cold in Atlanta. And I think when we're ready for a 2020 event, all of the activating corporations that have put a 2-year hiatus on golf tournaments and everything warm now has Miami, Tampa, and LA back to back to back. What does that mean?
It means it's going to be more dollars to us because they've been holding their money. And we experienced that when they had the Super Bowl in Detroit. And it was obviously very cold there. They were coming to Miami after Detroit, and they said, we're holding our money. We'll see you in Miami. Yeah. And so you're going to get that. Listen, I was just in a meeting with the folks from Minnesota. It was minus 50 degrees yesterday. Right. And they said to me, if we were there today, everything was shut down. Right. The airport, the Super Bowl Live, volunteers, everything would have been shut down. So we're listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make a prediction. It's going to be blue skies, balmy weather, and 72 degrees in Miami.
And by the way, Rodney doesn't go out on a limb very much. That's about as far as he gets. And the last time it snowed in Miami, I remember it was 1977.
Yeah, exactly.
We all understand that. So for Rodney Barreto personally, you've been involved in a lot of this. You've had an incredible run at mixing civic activism with local success. What's next for you?
I think we're going to chase another Super Bowl. I'd love to get another one for our community. I think Steve Ross deserves having another one for stepping up and making his investment. Got folks like Tom Garfinkel who just do an incredible job executing all the improvements there. So listen, the sky's the limit, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely, and part of it is not. We all look back at the respective sports stuff in Miami, and in seriousness, sports has grown a long way.
Oh yeah.
We were originally dealing with that 30, 40, 50 years ago when it was everybody coming from somewhere else and it was fun and sun. It is now a very significant part of an economic engine that's called tourism and economic development in South Florida, not just Miami.
Yeah, it's funny, to all your listeners out there, Rick, I remember when you built the arena, the old Miami Arena, and all the politics you had to go through, whether we put skyboxes or we don't put skyboxes, and the way that product ended, so.
Well, and listen, Rodney have been strapping and now is reduced to an old gray-haired guy. I started ugly, and I have even more gray hair than Rodney Barreto. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
All right, my friend.
Rick Horrow, speak with you soon. Well, good luck, Rodney. As we move forward, we'll continue to talk about the legacy of the NFL and Super Bowl in Miami as we go forward. But let's next talk about the NBA in all contexts. The All-Star Game was a big hit. It sold out on Turner very quickly. $66 million for the weekend mega event. That's ad sales. Video streamers, YouTube, TV, Hulu, the All-Star Player Draft, the new format, team captains LeBron James and the Greek Freak. And the NBA marketing right now seems like it can do no wrong, and the data proves it. And by the way, the 2K League signs Champion as its apparel provider. Esports heated up into the big business. All 21 esports teams with uniforms and travel relative to the NBA 2K League, the Overwatch League, League of Legends. NBA 2K continues to expand, adding 4 new teams representing the Lakers, Timberwolves, Hawks, and Nets. Looking to the future for the 2K League, they've signed multi-year deals with Twitch, Dell, Intel, Scuf Gaming, and an integral part of the NBA's overall business strategy. Really, really, really important. Also important for the NBA is to keep their people healthy. And one of the things that they're trying to do is to welcome new technology. It's not NBA developed, but it's a company called Embody. They closed their $3.5 million investment round, $3.6 million to be precise, to advance a new standard of care for Achilles and rotator cuff. The DARPA-funded startup developing collagen-based implants for the treatment of sports medicine injuries completed its first outside funding round. The company received $14 million in non-dilutive funding, and DARPA's interest is based on the prevalence of Achilles and rotator cuff injuries with Navy SEALs and other elite warfighters. Embody plans to launch their Tapestry implants in 2020 and plans to raise a Series A funding round later this year. Embody's focus aligned with the needs of high-performance athletes with their mission to restore pre-injury performance following tendon and ligament injuries. With high-profile athletes such as DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall recently suffering debilitating Achilles tears, the spotlight now shifts to sports medicine leaders such as Embody to shorten the recovery process, get the athletes back in the game. It's obviously important for the NBA as well. They got to keep their superstars healthy, and they're going to try to do that no matter what. The superstars also in the NBA have to deal with social media as well. Axios Sports examined the social media followings of every all-star starter across the 4 major sports. They expected the star-driven NBA to come out ahead, but not to the magnitude by which the league led other sports. And for starters, the Lakers' LeBron James has more followers on Instagram and Twitter, over 89 million, than every NFL, MLB, NHL all-star starter combined. James also has more than twice as many as the next closest NBA starter, Steph Curry, more than 37 million. Comparatively in the NFL, J.J. Watt, the strongest social presence among NFL Pro Bowlers, over 8.8 million followers. MLB, NHL, stars Mike Trout, Alex Ovechkin, respectively, have almost the same exact number of followers across both platforms. Matt Kemp, Connor McDavid also. It's also notable and regrettable from a branding standpoint that on the NHL All-Star roster showcase in San Jose, 15 starters had neither no Twitter account nor an Instagram account. Bottom line is the NHL's got to get to where the NBA has been. NBA going even further. The jersey of the future at their tech summit. Adam Silver pushes a button, all of a sudden changing the numbers on jerseys. He also announced plans for facial recognition ticketing, hologram mascots, virtual reality glasses to take future basketball fans from their couches directly into a virtual arena. The NBA long led the way in terms of tech innovation among America's sports leagues, and it's no wonder Silver reportedly turned down overtures to helm NFL or other institutions. Just a rumor now, but you never know. Finally, the NBA conquering America. How about Africa? FIBA and the NBA plan to launch a new league, the African Basketball League, 12 clubs from across Africa. Former President Barack Obama would be involved in the league in an unspecified capacity, and according to Yahoo Sports, there are already several professional teams across Africa, but the league will attempt to unify them into one place while providing financial support, resources, and training. Qualifying tournaments held to determine which teams will make the league with nations of Angola, Egypt, Kenya, Morocco, Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, South Africa, and Tunisia likely to be represented. Many former and current NBA players invested time and money in African basketball initiatives. Having Obama on the masthead will certainly accelerate the process. The NBA needs no help. They are leading the way when it comes to all of these issues. How about baseball? Yeah, we're ready. Major League Baseball pitchers and catchers reporting the 150th season of pro organized baseball, a season-long series of uniform features, content integration across its league-run media platforms, special cap patches worn by every player. The cap application never been done to celebrate a major anniversary in baseball, but it'll be similar to special postseason patches worn on the side of player caps. Also will be a uniform patch worn all season on the right sleeve of player jerseys. Those sleeve patches recall similar ones used to celebrate baseball's 100th in '69 and 125th in '94. MLB also planning an extensive series of anniversary-driven multimedia content commemorations of great moments in baseball history. It'll run on MLB Network, MLB.com, and other social media channels. And it's truly a celebratory year. The NFL also considers its 100th anniversary, and other key milestones in sport. We'll cover them on a regular basis. How about the Cubs? They cut a deal with Sinclair Broadcast Group, seeing the creation of Marquee Sports Network and ending the split of the Cubs games between GN, NBC Sports Chicago, local ABC affiliate. All games will now air on the Cubs' own network alongside pre- and post-game shoulder content. Cubs and Sinclair will have equity in the joint venture and the distribution and staffing. Sinclair leads that. Cubs Productions Video Develop Unit also heavily involved. The move anticipated when the Cubs didn't re-sign with NBC Sports Chicago alongside other local sports teams during recent negotiations. ESPN reported that the new network could add college basketball to its programming lineup as it looks for live sports events during the MLB offseason. Finally, in baseball, you can't think baseball without stadiums. And American Family Insurance secured the naming rights for the Brewers' renovated spring training ballpark in Maryvale. It'll now be called American Family Fields of Phoenix. American Family also has the naming rights for Miller Park via a deal starting in 2021. The Brewers and the city of Phoenix unveiled $60 million in renovations to the 10,000-seat Cactus League ballpark, and improvements include a new player agility field, Daktronics video and flagship retail store, as well as over 105,000 square feet of clubhouse and baseball operations. HKS designed it, while Mortensen leading the construction. And the Brewers renovation only the latest among a slew of huge improvements to Cactus League facilities. Dodgers, White Sox, Cubs, Diamondbacks cut the ribbon on sparkling new ballparks. These improvements keep Phoenix as a top tourist destination every spring. Let's talk hockey. Gum Gum, a new real-time artificial intelligence computer vision platform used by teams, leagues, and brands to measure the ROI of its deals, tracked 506 sponsors across 10 in-arena and on-ice NHL sponsorship placements, leveraging owned and operated social media accounts of 31 NHL teams to measure media value. the NHL season midpoint, Instagram was by far the best social media platform in generating media value, about $5.7 million in sponsor value total. Twitter, only 597,000. Facebook, 494,000. Top sponsor was Geico, 321,000 in sponsor media value. Geico, a partner with 21 teams, notably Party City, a single team sponsorship, the New York Rangers, had the fourth highest sponsor media value total, 145,000, besting NHL TV and Toyota, which had 12 team partnership and branding in 12 arenas. So clearly, all of that really important. Let's finish with NASCAR. The bottom line with NASCAR, obviously, a long race, an active race, a dangerous race, but nearly a sellout. 101,000-seat track, had about 1,500 season tickets left, about 1.5%. Already on the verge of that Friday. They were close to having it done Sunday. Denny Hamlin wins, a 1-2-3 finish for Joe Gibbs. Pretty darn good. Also activation. Busch, other companies led the way, and clearly Monster involved. And even though we have a situation where nobody is sure what Monster is going to deal with long term, they certainly have a tremendous ability to go forward and get things done this year and evaluate it down the road. Finally, let's talk about soccer and the international body, CONCACAF, the body that deals with Central America, the Caribbean, and North America, expanding the league from 16 to 22 clubs. An additional 5 Central American teams and 1 side from the new Canadian Premier League. Beginning this year, the club competition additionally serve as the qualifying tournament for teams from Central America and the Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League, the region's premier club competition. The CONCACAF League will remain a knockout tournament. Preliminary round set to kick off in July. The 6 winners of those two-legged ties will then join the top 9 ranked Central American clubs and the runner-up of the Caribbean Club Championship in the round of 16. As well as the eventual winners, an additional 5 teams will qualify for the CONCACAF Champions League through the revamped CONCACAF League based on rankings in accordance with the competition's tie-breaking procedure, a move sure to widen the league's fan base and boost ratings. Soccer 2022 in Qatar, and then 4 years later, U.S., North America, Canada, Mexico. Obviously can't wait for the future of soccer. Got a whole lot of stuff to cover, a whole lot more next week. Like to thank Dan Martin for putting this together with Tanner Simpkins and Reed Weber. We'd also thank Rodney Barreto for being involved in this visionary effort and lending us his time as he will throughout the year. We'd like to thank you for listening and watching and joining us once again when we go Beyond the Scoreboard.